Welcome to another edition of the Syncom Small Talk tutorial series. What we'd like to look at this morning is code recovery. What that means is how can you recover code that you've lost, meaning you've quit your image one way or another without having saved your code, either in a store repository or just by saving the image, or through any of the other mechanisms like filing the code out. So you've just lost the code, you have no way of reproducing it that you know of, and this could happen any number of ways. You could have a power outage which just takes your computer down, not your fault. You could quit your image without saving, either publishing to store or saving the image. You had a little mistake, and that happens to all of us. Or you could be doing development work, and you could be interfacing, say, to C, do something that causes a crash to desktop. Anytime you're interfacing to a language like C where you can work with pointers, there are ways of crashing that make the image go away, and then in that case, you've lost your work. Either way, how do you recover from that? Well, let's get this out of the way, and we'll take a look at it. What I've got here is a little image, and I've got this counter app that I've brought into it, and it's the only work I've done in this image. So nothing else is here, no store, no nothing else, only this little thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to emulate a crash or some place where I haven't saved my work. I'm going to exit without saving, so I'm going to explicitly say no. And now at this point, I'm going to start the same image. You can see in the workspace here that I've got that I'm going to start working.im, which is the same image I had up a moment ago. And at this point, when I go to my browser, you're going to see that, well, counter app is not there. So I've lost my work. Well, not entirely. One of the things you ought to know is if you look down here into this directory listing, you see a file called working.cha. Well, it turns out that in Syncom Smalltalk, either VisualWorks or Object Studio, when you are working in the system, everything you do is logged out to disk, sort of like a database transaction log, which means you can replay all of those actions. And there's a tool that allows you to get access to it. Go to the Tools menu, go to Change List, and you'll find that you have a little tool. Let's make this large so you can see everything quite easily. This same tool is accessible in Object Studio. Again, through the Tools menu on the Object Studio launcher, it's going to look exactly the same, function exactly the same. Go to the File menu. You'll find there are a number of different options here. We're going to use Recover Last Changes. What it's going to do is read everything that we've done since the last save. Now, what if you did something a little more egregious, like quit the image, brought it back up and saved? Well, there's still Recover Changes. You can bring that entire change file in. Now, there'll be a lot of stuff in it, and you'll have to weed through more, but you can still get access to all of your changes. If you haven't saved since the last time, though, that's easy. You just get everything up to the last save marker, and you see when we brought it in, we've got all these changes. Let's make this a little bigger so we can see what's going on here. We have a do it up here. Now, if you've been doing work for a while, instead of just this small list of changes, you might have a bunch of do it's. And you might have a bunch of things that you don't want to replay. Like for instance, if you were working with an external library in a workspace, you probably don't want to redo the last line that crashed your image. What you can do is you can filter by the type of things. Here, let's say I want to get rid of all the do-its. I'm going to click on Type, and every do-it will show up here, and then I can go to the Remove option, Remove All, and it'll draw a line through it. Now, if I uncheck this, notice how it's still there, but it's been removed by marker. If I want it to actually be out of this list, I forget marked, or forget all marked, and everything marked will go away out of this list. Now, I haven't deleted it out of the change file, merely out of this view. So if I screw this up, if I filter things out that I don't want to filter out, I can always quit the change tool and start over again. I haven't done anything to this point other than work in this view. Now at this point I have a number of different options. I can select individual things and say I want to replay the selection, all from the top, all from here down. So for instance, if you had something here where you had a bunch of screwing around that you don't want to replay, and you know everything from there down is your code, go ahead and replay from there down. If this is like this view, replay all from the top, or you can individually replay. And that might be useful in cases where you haven't lost code, but something that is something I used to do a lot when I was a C programmer, which is code worked at 2 o'clock, here it is 4:30, and code isn't working anymore. You forget which version of the methods you were working on were working. They're all going to be listed here. So for instance, I can go up here and say I want to filter out all of the methods of that. Now I've only got one copy here, but I can filter out to list all the different versions that are in there and replay just the one I want. So it's not just code recovery here, it's also the ability to go back in time, as it were, rewind and pick up something that you may have lost. At this point, let's go ahead and replay all from the top, and it's going to replay every single one of these. Notice how the marker moved from the top to the bottom. It was pretty fast, you might not have noticed it, but in a longer list you'd see that it was replaying each one in turn, as if you had individually selected and picked replay. Now let's get out of this tool for a minute and go ahead and open up a new browser. Well, actually we don't need to, it's updated this one. Here's Counter App, there's all my code. Now let's go back into that tool for just a minute. I mentioned that it was like a transaction log, so let's again make it big and do recover last changes. You're going to notice that suddenly it's got twice as much stuff in it. And now if I select this method and filter to the selector, you'll see two versions because it's got the record of me replaying everything. So iteratively it's growing. There will be a marker in there for each save of the image. So recover last changes won't recover anything past that save marker. In that case you have to go to File, Recover Changes, and it's going to then go through your change file and say here are all the markers in it. So I can go back to any individual one from the beginning on up and say I want to recover everything from there into the present. So you can recover everything back based on the individual change marker. So if you know you saved your image, say at 3 o'clock, and you know you want to get back to something around 2, you can do that. It'll just require a little more grunt work in here. And you can also, with this, File, read different source from files or different code from files, you can go ahead and pick. It's going to give me a file picker here. Let's see, yeah, here we go. So I can find counterapp.st, which is in a different working directory, but for my purposes it works fine. You can pick other .st files and read those into the change list just to look at them. So let's go ahead and do that. And you'll see at this point it's bringing in this counter.app.st in here, so it read all of that stuff in here, and I can take a look at recovering stuff from arbitrary file outs, not just from the change file. There are a number of other options here. I mentioned remove and forget. Find, I can find individual files. I can do searching. I can look at conflict resolution, although honestly you're better off using the merge tool for this. This is kind of an older tool that people used pre-store, so I'd pretty much ignore that. Easier to use the merge and comparison tools as part of store than this stuff, but it's there. So other options are in here, but the main one you'll want to use is right here, recover last changes and recover changes, and then filter through this list. So that's about it for today. Till next time, have fun with Syncom Small Talk.